Hello everybody, welcome to Play Like a Watt Pro number 10. Today we're going to be talking about the STRV and how you should play it in random battles. I'll be covering two replays, the first on haluf and the second on murovanka. Now, what I basically want to get across in this video is that your equipment on the STRV is extremely important, what equipment you choose that is. So as you can see in this battle, I'm running Bond Turbo, Rammer, and Vents. I would say that the Rammer and the Bond Turbo you should always have. The Vents is kind of up to you. I prefer it over Improved Aiming Unit because your accuracy is already extremely good, and I'd rather just have the increase in DPM and view range that Vents gives. I just think it's better than Improved Aiming Unit. So I basically run this equipment loadout every single game in this STRV. Now why is the Bond Turbo very important on the STRV compared to like a regular turbo or no turbo at all? Well, when you're in siege mode, or whatever it's called, your top speed, forward speed, and reverse speed are very low. I think it's like 5 kilometers per hour forwards and 3 kilometers per hour backwards or something. With a Bond Turbo, you're effectively doubling your forward speed and doubling your reverse speed, which is huge. The absolute difference is the same as if you were in like something like a Leo, but the relative difference it makes to your speed is huge. It doubles it in both directions. And the reason why this forward and reverse speed is so important is because there are times in the STRV where you have no choice but to play aggressive, and to trade with people. Because honestly, if all you ever do in the STRV is snipe, you're just not going to have very good stats in it. So on this map, I could have sniped, but honestly, looking at this matchmaking, they have no artillery. I can actually play and hold down locations with the STRV, and so Al Haluf is a perfect map for that kind of thing. You can come out here, please replay. You can come out to this location here and play on the outside when there's no artillery, and you can just shoot these guys on the corner and people crossing here. And that's kind of the thing that the STRV is good at when it comes to brawling. It's really good at playing on ridges. It's not so good on corners, it's not so good on flat ground, but on ridges you can definitely brawl with enemy tanks. And so whenever there's a ridge in a game and you don't have any opportunities to just snipe, you should definitely be thinking about using that ridge to get extra damage. Like even on a map like Westfield, it's possible to play the ridge. It's just not, it's kind of difficult, but it is possible. You should be thinking about doing it. So here, this position you can use in all kinds of tanks with decent gun depression. I would say 7 or 8 degrees is enough to play this spot. But you have to be very wary of artillery in this spot. You can only really play it if there's no artillery. And if there's one artillery, you can still play it. You just have to be mindful of the artillery's reload. You can see I'm already up to 2,000 damage. If I was sniping right now from our base, I probably would have like 1, maybe 2 shots of damage, but instead I'm already up to 2,400. This email gets kind of lucky, I think, hitting my cupola, but it is what it is. I still have some HP to trade. And not only will this increase your DPG, but it will also just increase your win rate in this tank by a lot. Because you're playing the positions that really matter. You're not waiting until all your teammates die and then sniping enemies as they come in. You're brawling and controlling important positions from close range, which is usually the close range brawling positions are the positions that will win or lose your team in the game. Now here I've managed to lose most of my hit points, so I have to play a little bit more passive. I'm thinking about pushing up to the next ridge, but I see that we're down 2.5k HP, so I'm still just waiting a little bit. I'm playing a bit patient. It's not time yet to, excuse me, rush in and go for endgame damage because this game is not over yet. But I do eventually decide to move up because the enemies weren't poking here, and they weren't moving up. And I thought I might be able to get some shots in if I get lucky. I can't force damage right now. I have to play passive and bank on enemy mistakes, basically, because I don't have the HP to trade. Right here, I'm kind of just looking for an angle over here in case somebody pokes, but they're not poking, and I don't have the greatest view range. I probably wouldn't even spot the E4 even if he did poke. But I kind of bait this AE phase 1 in. I think he only pushed in because I pushed in a little bit. So he actually dies because I kind of bait him on accident. Here I'm trying to get an angle in case this renegade overpeaks because the AE phase 1 fired, but I don't get it. And I'm still paying attention to what's happening overall. Like I said, this game is not over. It's not time to push in yet. And even if I could push in, I don't think I would because I just don't have the HP to do it. So I'm kind of realizing that playing here and this position here is really risky. I could get shot by tanks in the back, and plus if somebody comes around the corner I might just get traded with. So I kind of just decide to wait until my team starts to die or starts to win, and then I'll come in for damage then. But then I turn around and I see that the Kron is actually in a vulnerable position because he's looking at tanks behind him, so I get some free damage here on him. And the gun depression on this tank, because of the siege mode, is extremely good. So you can play very steep ridges like this one very easily. What the STRV is bad at is engaging multiple targets from different angles at once. Here, if you pay attention, I thought I might get lit if I fired the E4. There's a chance that I wouldn't get lit because E4 has like 360 base view range, I think, and I have like 10% camo while firing because I'm a STRV, which has extremely good camo. But I decided to just play it safe, and I'm going behind this bush here so he won't spot me, guaranteed. I'm trying to go for a track here. Unfortunately, I miss. The STRV has the kind of accuracy where you can actually hit shots like that. And I almost hit a really nice shot there, but it misses. This game is still relatively close, but if you look at the map, we are winning based on map control. We just have to be careful pushing in that we don't get bled a lot. If we just played it slow, we would eventually surround them. Because I'm planning to loop all the way around and try to take over here. I'm hoping that the Udez will make a mistake somehow. I can't just push in around this corner, that would be way too risky because the Udez is still alive here. But I'm just looking to spot for my tank destroyers, basically, and try to take a one-on-one engagement. But then we see that the Udez actually gets lit, moving down, which is very nice because first of all, I didn't realize he was a one-shot until now because he was out of my render. And second of all, it just puts him in a way more vulnerable position. As you can see though, some of my teammates are throwing really hard. So this game is once again pretty close, even though we were winning for a second there. And now I use the zoom out feature to, well, zoom out. And I see that the 60 TP is AFK and I really want some of that damage. But I don't just drive out in the open to shoot him. I'm gonna take a wide route all the way around to here in order to shoot him without getting shot from this corner here. So obviously I'm getting pretty lucky that I just find an AFK tank. But even if this guy wasn't AFK, because we killed the Udez, I could have boosted up here and I would have been behind them. So even if this guy was not AFK and he was just playing in this area here, I would still have really good angles on their whole team. And right now, I'm aiming for his ammo rack. If you saw there, there was a critical hit. Which tells me that I probably damaged his ammo rack. Technically, in general, it's better to aim for fires than ammo racks. You're just more likely to get damage from a fire than from an ammo rack. Fires are more common, and even though they do less damage than an ammo rack usually, they still are way more reliable on average for getting damage. So technically, if I was going for maximum damage, if I hadn't gotten that critical hit on his side, I should be shooting him in the rear, trying to set him on fire. But what I'm worried about is if I pull forward to get a shot on his engine, I'll be more exposed to this corner here, and I don't want that. So that's why I'm playing further back and just shooting his turret. And I do ammo rack him, so that's nice. I see their Leo. Their Leo was last spotted here, but he gets spotted over here now, which is super good for me because now I don't have to worry about getting crossfired if he was back here. Like, there's a rock. Actually, the rock is here. I thought it was here. Well, anyway, if he was back here, then I would be in a crossfire, which is very bad for the STRV. You really want your enemies to be only facing you from one direction because you don't have a turret, and your side armor sucks. Now, pay attention to what I do here. I see that there's this guy's completely in the open, and he's not going to be able to escape. So I decided to shoot the T95 first, even though the T95 had lower HP. Because if I shot this guy first, then this guy would have had time to turn around, and it would have been a harder pen, and he could potentially shoot me. I don't really care if I get shot by this T103 because I have enough hit points to take a shot from him. I think I heard a shell from the Leo from over there, so I go for a blind shot, but it misses. My team is capping, we're up HP. This should be a win, but technically this is still very winnable for the Leo if he manages to kill me, because then he has to deal with someone who is in a cap, which he can come at from any direction possible, and an ISU, which is a very inflexible tank, so it's still winnable for him. So I'm not gonna take a huge risk. I'm just gonna drive in and try to take one shot and then kill him so I can secure the win for my team. But the Leo actually pokes, and the T-54E1 was ready for him, so he dies anyway. I had no blind shots this game, but 8100 damage. Even though I killed the full health AFK tank, this wouldn't really be a map that many people would expect a STRV to be able to do a lot of damage on, because you would think the STRV is a sniper and that I might play the base. But because I took this position, I managed to farm a lot of damage. I think that's all for this replay. Let's go on to Murovanka, where I'm going to show you a little bit more about how to play the STRV more traditionally, like how to snipe, and I'll show you some of the decision making I make on Murovanka, which I think could be helpful just for playing the map in general, even in other types of tanks like a Leo or something. Here's the second replay. Once again, good matchmaking. We're top tier in a tier 9 battle. There's more than one way to play Muro in a STRV. You could potentially play up here in the beginning, or even here. But the main reason I didn't play up here is because I don't have the view range to spot tanks crossing this. I still don't have the view range field mod, for one. And its view range is just pretty poor in general. And second of all, I like to start here, because if your light tank manages to push aggressively into this area here, or their light tank overpokes this bush here, then you can get free shots onto them here. If your light tank comes into here, they can also, if they have CBS, they can spot tanks that are sniping from back here, and you can get free damage into them. That being said, there isn't really a guaranteed way to get free damage at the beginning in a STRV on this map, or even in very many tanks at all. You're kind of dependent on your scouts and what your team does. Now, I'm fast enough that if we don't send enough tanks to the forest, I can still rotate back and come over here, which on Murovanka is a very common thing. Very commonly, your team won't send enough tanks to forest, and so you'll end up losing the forest, and you'll get kind of trapped in the corner of the map here because the 1-2 line is very hard to push out. So you just get trapped in the corner. And so in a situation where it's clear you're going to lose the forest, you kind of have two options. Your first option is to run, and if you're in a slow tank and you see that there's no one coming forest, you probably won't even have time to run, so you probably should start out the battle if you see your team isn't sending much to forest over on the 1-2 line. I like playing this area anyways in a lot of slower tanks. Like even in something like a mouse, I would just go into the city here, and if the enemy team commits any heavies down this line here, they're basically just free kills for you. But in something like a STRV, I don't have the armor to play in here because you're kind of hauled down here. They only have really good shots on your turret. I don't have a turret, but my frontal armor is okay, but it's not great. And I don't really have the elevation to play in here either. So instead I decided to support my scout and try to get some early game damage. Now I see that we aren't sending too many tanks here, so I do realize we're probably going to lose the forest this game, especially if the enemy sends like 8+ tanks to the forest. So what I'm going to do in this game is I'm going to opt for the second option. The first option was falling back if you're losing forest. The second option is to fall back here into the water, on the edge of the water. And when enemy tanks push around this corner, you can stay unlit and just farm them. And as long as you have some tanks right here to spot for you, you can do a lot of damage. And since I'm a STRV and I'm such a great sniper tank and I have great DPM and great camo, that's what I am going to decide to do this replay. Now here our Manticore isn't going as aggressive as I would like him to. I would definitely get some early game damage if he were to go more aggressive, but I understand that it's a risky play for him to make, so I don't really blame him. I probably wouldn't do it. Well, I probably would. I'm pretty aggressive, but it's probably not the right play usually. You want to wait until this area gets cleared usually before you push aggressively here, especially when you don't have much support in this area here. And as you can see, my team isn't actually pushing up at all, which is the right play by my team, to be fair. We don't have enough tanks over here to push the forest. We just don't, so. Although, the enemy did commit 2 top-tier heavy tanks. Well, they're not top-tier, but 2 heavy tanks onto the 1-2 line, which makes it a little bit easier to play the forest. But still, if you look at the tanks we have to fight them, we have a Lorraine 50T, which is pretty like it can kind of play hold down, but its frontal armor is bad. Standard B has no armor. Char Future has no armor. Yag is useless in the forest. The only tank we really have to play there is a Centurion 7-1, and you can tell just by where he's located, he's not the best player, or at least he's inexperienced. I'm going to speed this up a little bit because nothing's really happening. It's kind of just a stalemate right now. It says we're up 5k HP, but you have to keep it in mind. We have a Type 5 Heavy, and all of these tanks on the 1-2 line are out of my render, so I don't actually know if we're up HP right now. I assume we are because we killed a full HP A Phase 1, but being up this amount of HP doesn't really make that big of a difference in this situation, because first of all, it's very unlikely we'll be able to push out the 1-2 line, because it's just very hard to push. Tanks here will shoot you the whole time you're crossing this space, and you have to win the 1 line in order to win the 1-2. You can't just push like this, otherwise these guys will farm you in tanks back here. So even though we might be up HP, the game is still in a stalemate, so there's no pressure for me to play more aggressive or anything like that. Now I see enemies are starting to make a little bit more pressure, and I decide to fall back to the position I told you about before, even if enemy tanks don't commit all the way in, you could still get shots on the ridge from back here, so it's still a good position regardless of whether they push in or not. As long as they get spotted, you'll have shots. Now this guy's 360 meters away from me, so I realize there might be a chance he could spot me here, but he doesn't. I guess because of my camo. Or it could also be a bug. Sometimes when you knock over a tree, even when the foliage doesn't become opaque, or it does become, doesn't become opaque, when it's still transparent, sometimes it still will give you camo regardless if you're far away enough from the tree. So just keep that in mind. It's a bug in the game. Now here I make a mistake. I shoot the T10. I really should have shot the Skoda T50 because he's YOLOing me, and if he lights me, I could take some damage for free. I wouldn't die for it, but I could take like 800 or 1200 damage if he manages to spot me, so I really should be focusing him first. And so that's what I do now. I focus him, and somehow I'm still not spotted, which is, I don't know if it's that surprising, but it's a little bit surprising to me. Now I'm trying to move forward to get spots. Again, my view range isn't great, but it's just barely good enough to spot this email too. And I try to double track him here. That was definitely the right play to go for the track. Unfortunately, I just miss. And I have no clue how that bounces, but it does, so. And this is where you can see that the accuracy of the STRV and its DPM it's just incredibly good. Best accuracy in the game, I believe. And that's why I don't use aiming unit, because in 90% of situations your accuracy is already going to be good enough to reliably hit every single shot anyways. At least hit where you're trying to aim. Now though, this was a very much failed push by the enemy team, and now I see we're up 3 guns, and I see that a lot of their tanks are down HP. And so even though I don't know the HP of my teammates, I'm still assuming that we're going to win this game, because we actually did manage to push out the 1-2 line. Somehow. I guess we just had so many forces pushing it that it worked out. You almost never see a team push 1-2 though, because it takes a concerted effort by your whole team in order to do it, and that rarely happens in pub battles. You have to have a bunch of people all willing to push at the same time, or else it just doesn't work. And people aren't able to coordinate that very much in random battles. But since I see that we're up HP and that we're closing in on the enemy, we have a lot more map control than them, I'm starting to think about how I can get involved, because we're definitely going to win this game, or at least it seems that way. So I'm thinking about what I could possibly do right now. And I look at the mini-map, and I see that they have a 700 HP Leo here. And what I'm thinking about doing is trying to kill this guy, and then make my way into here. Because from here you can shoot this pretty easily. You can also shoot this if it gets spotted. It's just the next logical place to push. I can't push in like this very easily. I could, but again, I'd be playing on a ridge where I have to worry about multiple angles at once, and I could get farmed pushing in. So I just don't think it's the optimal direction to push right now. So I head towards the Leo. I'm asking my team to push with me because I really want support when doing this. The reason why I want support is if I push into this guy, there's a chance I could be playing on this ridge here. I guess it's this ridge, like right here. And they can shoot me if I push into here because it's completely in the open. There's an angle across here. So even though I'm full HP and I'm willing to do this by myself, I'd prefer to do it with a couple teammates. But the Leo actually runs, and that basically frees up the middle for me. I'm not getting spotted by anything, so I know there's nothing on the edge of the forest here. And I'm just thinking about pushing into this location here. I kind of expected my teammates here, the 704 and the Manticore, to push in with me. but they just aren't. So I can tell they're not very good players, most likely, because they just aren't. This is like the intuitive decision that you would make next in a battle, and they're just not doing it. So I'm forced to push in by myself, which is okay. It's just not ideal. But since I'm full HP getting here, it's not a big deal really. More damage for me, I guess, right? And now I'm waiting for tanks here to get lit or tanks here to get lit. And you'll see in a second what happens. I spot an E4 here. This is what I was talking about when I was saying tanks could be playing up on this ridge and shooting me if I push their Leo in this area here. He was up here. It's a really good spot to get extended line of fire on a lot of the map. I'm not lit, so I'm pushing up to get a shot onto this Leo. Somehow I missed that. I could have gone for damage in the standard B if I wanted a little bit extra damage instead of shooting a one shot, but honestly, I'll just take the one shot and get extra 1/8. It's like 3/4 of the damage in my shell anyway, so. And now I'm full HP, so I'm completely fine trading. I'm okay with getting lit, doesn't bother me. Now right now, the next logical progression for me is to go up here and take this ridge. I'm not going to be able to get any shots on these guys unless they overpeak like back here. So I'm not going to just sit here and wait for my team to spot these guys. I want to do damage on the tanks that are in the forest, and by going up here I'll be able to kind of flank them and get side shots. You do need to be a little bit careful when playing up here that you don't get shot by tanks on the side, but I'm healthy enough where I'm just going to risk it. And there is a little bit of a undulation, I don't know if that's the right word, a little bit of a ridge in the way that kind of blocks fire, so I'm feeling pretty confident. Like I said, sometimes in the STRV you have to go in because you don't have any other options left for damage. You can't always just snipe. Went for a track there, but I missed. I know this Conway can shoot me, but I have enough HP to survive another hit. And the game will be basically over by the time I'm done farming these guys anyway, so I'm fine with taking that damage. And I just randomly blind fire their Conway, which is pretty cool. Here's the accuracy of the STRV, it's just very good. Now I'm just waiting for lights. Hit a nice snap on the arty. I have a problem in the STRV, and I think it's probably a universal problem for everybody. But I'll whip my shot, I'll turn this way, there'll be a tank here, and I'll turn, and my tank will overturn. And it'll go like this, and then I'll bounce back. So that's just something to keep in mind in the STRV. I think it's probably a problem for everybody. I don't think it's like my settings or something. I tried messing around with enable automatic hull lock in sniper mode. It doesn't change anything for me. It's pretty annoying, but it's whatever. And I don't think I get any more damage from this point on. Yeah. So hopefully these replays taught you about how to be aggressive and when you can be aggressive in a STRV. Again, this was another example of how to be aggressive in the STRV. It's a situation where you can be aggressive. The STRV can play aggressive when it plays hull down. That's the best case scenario for playing aggressive in the STRV, and it works pretty well a lot of the time. Here I was hull down, I was on a ridge, I can pull forward and then pull backwards. I have great gun depression, so it's pretty hard to pen me when I'm using my when they can only see like this top half. They have to hit my cupola usually. In terms of how much damage I did this game, I did 7,800 damage. I did the blind on the Conway and the blind on the standard B. I think that's it. I should have another replay out pretty soon in the next couple of days, or maybe even on the same day as this video, we'll see. STB-1 Redshire is a pretty good game, so stay tuned for that. By the way, I guess I should probably mention it, but I have a Twitch channel for those who don't know. I know most of you probably came here from Twitch, but for those who didn't know, I have a Twitch channel, so check that out as well. The link is in the description. That's all. So thanks for watching, and goodbye.